Hello, my name's Cole Evans. I'm the CEO of Enduro Metals. We have a 688 square kilometer land position in the center of British Columbia's Golden Triangle, among one of the most prolific mineral districts in the world.
Cole, good to see you again. We saw you in London at the end of November, where you think just finished your drill program. Thanks for coming on the show. Wanted to catch up with you. Why don't you just remind people what you've got, where you are, who surrounds you, and then I want to talk about how you grow that.
Certainly. Yeah. Well, always a pleasure chatting, Matt. And yeah, we're Enduro Metals. We're junior explorer based in Kelowna, British Columbia. Our land package is a 688 square kilometer position right in the center of British Columbia's Golden Triangle. So we're wedged right in between Newmont and Teck's joint venture Galore Creek, and then the Seabridge KSM SK Creek camp fame to the southeast.
Brilliant. The thing I've enjoyed about conversations, it can get quite technical, and we're going to try and keep it quite simple today. Okay, like I said, you are surrounded by all the right names, and I'm sure you'll name drop them in a second here. But let me lay out the problem that outside observers may think about your company. It's a $20 million market cap company. You've got a large land package. You've got multiple targets, and you're kind of going through a rigorous process of a kind of proof of concept in a way about how you go about finding copper, gold, and other metals in the ground. So, what's the actual plan? If you just remind me, what's the plan, and what's the end game for you?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, I mean, you hit the nail in the sense that this is this is a difficult business, right? And this is a difficult part of the world to find things. And so that's why Enduro I view at a very important point. And even just with our news that came out last week, our goal is, Burgundy is as important. So Burgundy is where we had our discovery in 2021, our discovery hole, 331 meters, 0.71 copper equivalent, starting from surface for those that aren't familiar with it. It's as important from a resource perspective as it is a proof of concept. So like you said, right? What we're looking at now, and this just came out in our news last week, this copper line that we're referring to, is you've got a 15 to 20 kilometer structural corridor with multiple centers along it. Enduro's goal, our job, is not to go and drill all of these centers. This is where I said the proof of concept comes in. We've shown that what we've done at Burgundy works. Wherever we hit mineralization, we have the kind of grades you need to make something work in this part of the world. It's about showing size, and that's where we bring on a major partner and what we're working on right now. And of course, I got to keep everyone's confidentiality in mind as to where those things sit. But yeah, you can bet there's certainly significant interest in what we're doing. And that, okay, hey, if it works here, here's 3 or 4 other locations where you're seeing the same criteria.
Right. Okay. But you've kind of got 4 targets that you talk about regularly. So obviously Burgundy, where you've been spending the time, money, and effort. You've got North Toe, Chachi, and McLymont as well. Have you? And you said you can't drill out everything in this kind of structural corridor or the string of pearls that you're looking for. It's a kind of proof of concept idea for you to deliver scale, because the grades are there. The copper equivalent grades are there to certainly be of interest. They're well above global average. But the scale is where it becomes interesting to anyone with a decent sized balance sheet who may agree with your thesis about hunting porphyries of a certain type. So can you just tell me more about this structural corridor and what you need to lay out in terms of the data that you need to show interested parties before they are going to step in here? And how long is that going to take? How much more money you're going to need to raise? What are we in for here?
There's not from the Burgundy or this copper line story as we've called it last week. So that was in the geological model that came out last week. There's really not a whole lot left to do. Of course, from a major mining perspective, I mean, at this point, I obviously can't disclose who, there's 7 NDAs with major miners as we sit today on this. Of course, they move at a slow pace, right? Information in their due diligence processes are long processes, but we've been at that for a significant amount of time at this point. And I think, I certainly don't have a crystal ball, but it's well on its way.
But what does that do for you? Like, say one of those 7 says, hey, I'm interested in this. Let me do what? Give you some money, JV with you, buy it off of you? Well, what's the plan?
there's optionality to it. I mean, yeah, you can look at standard joint ventures. I mean, you can look at exploration alliances, right? Where I'll look at our neighbors, KSM. Now, it's a slightly different system. Theirs is gold over copper. Ours are copper gold, sort of a 50-50 mix, but it's the exact same idea, right? A bit of history. That's called the Sulphurets camp because Sulphurets was the first deposit found there. Of the 6 stringed in a row, Sulphurets is probably the least significant from a resource perspective, right? It just happened to be the first one found. It's multiple centers along that string, and that's what the major miners look at here. It's the exact same characteristics. We're the first people to have ever done it. So it's that is the basic strategy to it.
Right, being the first to something doesn't necessarily guarantee success, right? It just says no one's been there yet. You kind of, I know there's some historic component to what you're doing, but you're doing your own drilling, and I'm interested in the way that you're going about it to best get the data, to best lay out the story so someone can come in here, because you are going to need help, right? One, it's a very sticky market for the last 2 years. For gold, I know this is kind of copper gold story. Copper is on the up, but there's a kind of disinterest or a kind of risk-off environment for juniors at the moment. So you do need to bring someone in. So what do they need to see from you? That's the bit I'm trying to get at. And what have you got now, and what do you need to add to that before they can actually kind of commit themselves? What do you think?
It really, I think it's in its final innings. It's we've shown, again, particularly with this geological model, where the metal's coming from, where it's being trapped, and where it's vectoring to. Very simple things. As I said before, we have the grade you need to make something work here. Where can we show to a major miner that, hey, if you follow this strategy, you invest the time and money into it, you can reasonably expect to find 500 million plus tons of this same material that we're already finding, right? We're still from the deepest hole we've drilled at Burgundy Ridge, its true depth is 450 meters. Most of these systems don't start until 500, 700 meters down, right? We're still shallow in the grand scheme of things, let alone the 4 other centers we may have along this 20-kilometer structural corridor. So I think it's there. 2023 is about, there's very little drilling left to be due, if anything at all. It's kind of about wrapping up the bow around it. So it's, surface work, drone magnetics from that North Toe press release we had out last month or about 6 weeks ago. It's expanding on that. It's linking everything together. It's showing that story that, hey, what we're saying holds together the more and more we test it. And that's with simple surface work, boots on the ground, drone work. It's cheap. It's, relatively straightforward. It's never been done before.
Right. Okay. So that's kind of the Burgundy angle. When you said to me back in November, right, I think we kind of work this up for the next 3, maybe 4 years, and then we hand it over to someone, right? I don't know if your mood or the mood has changed at all, because again, in the last 6 months, it's been a kind of quite tricky space. Has that intent changed any? You raised some money back in May, I think. You must be kind of running that down a bit because you've been doing a lot of work. You're going to need to raise some capital. Stocks, yours and everyone else's is going to follow a sort of gentle slide down. Raising money is expensive now. So again, have you changed your view on how you come at it or how you encourage other people to come in with you?
Absolutely. And that goes into the optionality of our project. As I said, 688 square kilometers. There's multiple things going on here, right? When you focus on one aspect, so let's say the copper, gold, porphyries, and maybe I'll bring why we focused on that. I would make the argument that this is, the copper, gold, porphyry is among the most sought after mineral deposits in the world today, right? Look at Barrick, look at Newmont, what they're doing. Look at the Newmont-Newcrest deal. That's what that's all about. Newcrest is the world's foremost explorer and miner of copper, gold, porphyries, in my view, and I think a lot of other people would share that. There's a reason why these big deals are going on. Rico, Deek, all these things. We could go on about that for ages. But okay, you look at McClymont, right? So we had the historic high grade gold resource. When we focus on the copper, gold, porphyry, we get no value for that. or vice versa. If we focus on McClymont, we get no value for the copper gold porphyry because it's a different client, right? If you will, it's a different buyer, it's a different interest group. So it's about splitting and combining like items, and that's where you have the optionality in this project that you don't need to go out and raise the same amount of money that we raised last year at these prices. No, I'm the second largest shareholder. We'd never do that. That would be insane. We can leverage the optionality of the project that we have to see value where we aren't already seeing it, and that's well underway. In a matter of weeks for people to see some stuff on that.
Okay, but so I just want to be really clear because I think you were a second ago, but I just want to make sure people pick it up. You're saying you do not plan to do any more drilling this year?
We'll be drilling. When I refer to the copper lines, there's little, if any, drilling left to do. We'll see again how these discussions in the background continue on. If there was anything, a few holes, simply testing deeper underneath the mineralization that we already have. Again, a reminder, our very last hole at Burgundy Ridge last year went 603 meters down. It literally ended in 0.59 copper, 0.3 gold, along with the silver and zinc within as well. So it was unfortunate. It was a mechanical shutdown. Of course, no one would have ever done that, logically. Of course, there's mineralization above it as well. So you see how the story puts together. Literally, the deepest sample we have is in ore grade material underneath hundreds of meters of ore grade material above it. So it's really a simple concept. If there was any more drilling to be done, it'd just be drilling that deeper, very focused in that area if we need to do that. Otherwise, no, I don't think there's any drilling left that needs to be done there
Okay, but it's obviously like it's cash conservation is critical at the moment. As I alluded to, it's expensive to raise money at these prices. You've got to have a kind of sense of the market. And I think you've given an indication. You think your copper gold projects are flying off the shelf, as it were, of great interest across the board. Not getting the values, but definitely getting the interest, and there's a little bit of M&A happening out there as well. So do you feel that it is the best thing for your shareholders to just kind of not hunker down? It's just sit back, go through the kind of desktop and surface work, finish that off, and package that in a little bow, as you described it, for someone to actually maybe make that first move. It's one of these 7 companies that you mentioned on NDAs.
That's the best thing with the markets where they're at right now that I think can be done for the whole copper line, that whole story. With respect to the gold, so we talk about McClymont and where I've alluded to that this needs to be dealt with in a different way, and that's well on its way with financing partners that want to do that. That's the simple, straightforward, high-grade gold. The historic resources all within 80 meters of surface. I mean, I'd point to assaying we've done where there's RO709. We didn't even drill that hole. We added 26 meters of 2.5 grams gold just by assaying all the core. That's 86 meters of 3 grams starting on surface. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, right? It needs its own focus. And we get no value for that today. That's something we can leverage in a tough equity market to get value, to keep things moving forward, to continue to show these great results. And all these things end up stitching themselves together in helping build up the entire project area.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that you are really clear with your shareholders or anyone kind of looking in at this thing that you don't feel it grades your problem, because you've been hitting grade from surface and you've been hitting good grade at depth. It's really the way you finance going about demonstrating the scale for someone else to, believe it enough to, or believe your model enough to say, well, we can pick it up from here, or we can pick it up with you going forward. I mean, that's effectively what you're trying to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's by no means a simple thing. I mean, everyone here knows, everyone who listens to your show, I'm sure knows that exploration is a complex business, right? Let alone doing it in a place where no one's done it before. But that's also where the opportunity is, right? If you're going to find something big, if you're going to find something that's going to make a lot of money, this is your shot to do it. You're doing it in the center stage. This is the most prolific mineral district among them in the world, right? This will become one of the most important producing districts in the Western world in the next 10 years from both a gold and copper perspective. So it takes time. And I know that's tough, but perhaps not that I'm into necessarily these financial quotes and things like that, but I remember listening to an old Warren Buffett interview. I think it was from the late 70s, early 80s. And someone had asked him, why is it that, the premise of what you do is so simple, right? Excuse me, value investing. Anyone can really do it, right? Why don't more people do it? Why aren't people as successful as Berkshire Hathaway? And his response was, because nobody wants to get rich slowly, right? It's really simple. And I appreciate that it's not a process that happens overnight. It takes months. It takes a couple years. But when it works really well. And that's where we think we sit today. And fortunately for people getting involved in the story now, at the tail end of that difficult process.
No, I hear you. I do think you've gone things about the right way, and I do think you've got something good going on there. But again, I just want to make sure that people, listening to this, hear what you're saying and understand what you're saying and believe what you're saying, because you've got a big land package going on there. So the fact that you're saying, well, we've got something, the fundamentals are strong, that's great. But at the same time, it's up to you. It's on you to make sure that people understand that you are doing things the right way to demonstrate that scale. So if there's not going to be much more drilling or any drilling coming up, what's happening at Green Rock or any of the other kind of targets that you could be going after, you're saying it doesn't make sense to spend money on those yet, but it's there when we want to go back to it.
Yeah, not drilling money. I wouldn't. It's okay. Like I said, I think we have enough information here. It takes time to package it all together in the right way, have it make sense in the right hands. But
best use of money. Okay. I hear it. I'm a buyer. Look, Cole, I appreciate the kind of catch up where you've got to, and it's just I was kind of keen to try and understand what you meant by this kind of structural controlling corridor and how you come at it, because using 20 kilometers, using big words and using big dimensions, I think for juniors it can actually be a negative. So I just want to make sure I understood how you were coming at it, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Oh, for sure, Matt.